Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Perusa MMA. Today, I have a very special guest for you. My guest is known as Mr. Bare-Knuckle. He has fought in the UFC, he's fought in the PFL, he's done some BKFC action, and of course, he does some Gamebred action. He is making his return to the Gamebred cage when he takes on Mr. Josh Weems November 15th in his backyard in Biloxi, Mississippi. He is the kid. He is Mr. Jason Knight. Jason, what's up, brother? How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. I'm on my lunch break right now from work. You know, gotta pay the bills somehow. So I work every day, gotta train every night, and kind of sore right this minute. Trying to get it all going.
I don't think a lot of people realize to be a professional fighter, they think, it might be a glorious life. They see the high moments, but they also don't realize there's so many sacrifices to be a professional mixed martial artist. You fought at the highest level, you're fighting a very respectful promotion in Gamebred. You have a 9 to 5 job, you train on the side, get punched in the face. You have kids, you have a family to take care of. What motivates you to get through all the sacrifices, man?
Man, I'm not even gonna lie to you. At one point in time back in the day, it was just for the love of the game. Just loving the fight. And don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love to fight. But I've got bills to pay and shit to pay off. So this is the quickest way to get everything paid off is, go out there, make some good money, and making good money doing something I love. You know, I'm past the point of chasing dreams because I've done lived all my dreams. Now I'm trying to get paid.
Last time we saw you in action for Gamebred, at least about a year ago, is this around this time last November. You took on Randy Costa in Biloxi. What was the like when Dean called you and proposed Josh Weems? Was it no brainer to accept the fight?
Yeah, for sure, man. Things didn't really go my way with Randy Costa for sure, but this is a completely different fight against a completely different fighter. And I plan on trying to run that back with Randy Costa as soon as possible if he's down. But I definitely kind of excited about this fight with Josh Weems. He's a tough, gritty guy, and he's going to be there for the whole fight regardless. And the way I look at it, if I've got to be in there for 3 rounds, I'm in there for 3 rounds. I'm going to make sure that I'm just as prepared as he is. I'm going to make sure that my cardio is up to where it needs to be. And if we got to go 3 rounds, that's what we do. But I make no mistake, I'm looking to put him away.
For whatever promotion you're in, whenever a fight fan sees Jason Knight on the card, they circle it, they start, they highlight it, they don't miss it. And it's one of the reasons because of what you bring to the cage, man. I mean, you always leave it in there. You have that dog in you, like you said. Yeah, it's hard to put you out, man. You keep coming, you keep coming. They have to throw bricks at you basically to stop you. You put up some great fights, some great finishes. Did you take a lot of pride in fighting with that style?
Yeah, man. That's pretty much all I know. That's been my life since birth, pretty much. We gotta give it all we got, and there's no excuse for anything less. And that's kind of the motto I live by. Whether I'm working, I'm fighting, you know, playing around in the backyard with the kids, whatever. You gotta give it 110% at all times, and sometimes that gets ugly for me. But that's my heart won't let me do anything else.
You've done it before. You fought in Biloxi before. You fought for Gamebred in Biloxi. Did that excite you once again when you found out it was in Mississippi?
Yeah, man. It's always awesome to fight in Mississippi. That's my home crowd. I know for a fact. I don't care who my opponent is. Whether they're from Mississippi, which Josh Wayne is, whether they're from Mississippi or what. I'm always gonna have the bigger fan base in Biloxi, and every time that I walk out to that crowd, it's electric. And, it really doesn't get no better than fighting at home in front of your crowd. But, at the same time, that's a lot of pressure. So, And that's about the only thing that sucks about fighting at home is just the fact that you're supposed to win. You're supposed to put on for everybody, and that's what I try to do. I try to make sure that I get my hand raised if at all possible. And if I don't get my hand raised, then I make sure that they go home still satisfied.
In addition to you, you have some teammates who are going to be fighting on this card. Some other D'Iberville guys. Obviously, Brandon Davis is going to be on the card. He's headlining against Randy Costa. Chase Sherman's going to be on this card. There may be some more teammates. I think I read Mike Sanford's on this card online last night. What is it like, once again, to be able to share a card with a bunch of teammates?
Man, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's amazing and terrifying at the same time. The reason I say that, all your guys go out there, they get wins. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that fights before you, if they win, it puts a little more pressure. Okay, they won, I gotta win. Okay, and if they go out there and they lose, like, oh shit, they lost. I can't lose also. I can't lose too. And it's a little added pressure, but at the same time, it's awesome. Especially if your guys go out there and they're on a roll that fires you up. You know what I'm saying? It's my turn. I got to get out here and I got to get this win. It adds pressure, but at the same time, it adds excitement.
This whole bare knuckle phenomenon has really blown up. It's kind of crazy to think 15 to 20 years ago, mixed martial arts was not as culturally accepted as it is now. It was banned in a lot of different places. You have people labeling it as human cockfighting. I know we talked before. You mentioned your early days of competing when you were 14 years old. You had to get a waiver from your mom to fight in the fight club, basically where you fought in a bar, in a dog kennel. When you look at where you started, did you ever think at that time that there could be promotions like Gamebred that had regulated bare knuckle fighting?
Not at all, man. When I started this, I was just a kid trying to have some fun and stay out of trouble. I was always, the skinny kid at school. I was always the guy that everybody thought they could pick on. But dude, I've had a big brother my whole life that's 7 years older than me, 150 pounds bigger than me. So anytime somebody tried to pick on me, we threw down right then and there. And, I most of the time I came out on top. And, that's the way I looked at it. You can't do nothing to me that my big brother can't do. And got out there, just, got charges pressed several times and stuff like that, just being wild as a kid. And then I start out fighting, I'm making $100 if I win, nothing if I lose, and I don't get charges pressed. So it was a win-win for me. And now, to think of where I've came from, that 14-year-old kid that was just trying to have fun, man, it's incredible. I've lived a lot of dreams that people will never get to live. And, I fought on the Ultimate Fighter. I fought in the UFC. I fought for the PFL. I fight for Gamebred, fought for BKFC. And all of this is stuff that, young men, they're striving to get to. And I've done it all, every bit of it.
I think one of those big things when you look at your career, I mean, there's so many different things, but I don't think people will ever forget the Artem Lobov fights. Both of them were amazing. That first one could be the greatest bare knuckle fight ever. Even to this day, do you still get people coming up to you, asking you, talking to you about those fights?
Yeah, man, for sure. Most people want to talk about the BKFC 5, and that is 100% understandable. And a lot of people, their question is, you know, uh, would you do it any different? Pretty much. Hell no. That's the kind of fight that every fighter wants at least once in their career. Just a knockdown, drag out brawl where we both leave it all in there, and nobody's willing to take a backward step. Nobody's willing to give up anything, and you walk out bloody, but there's no losers in that fight. Yeah, I didn't get my hand raised, but there's that type of fight. There's no losers, and I've had a couple good battles, but nothing equals to that.
So you kind of made history in the world of Gamebred mixed martial arts. I mean, you were the winner of the first ever Gamebred MMA main event. You took off Charles Bennett. From that point on, obviously, you did the BKFC thing for a while. When you were pitched the idea of bare knuckle, but with an MMA rule set, did that instantly appeal to you?
Yeah, man. I mean, it takes me back to my roots. I started out as a street fighter, with bare knuckles. We could take down, punch, kick, knee, whatever. And, this is just another form of that, except for your opponent. He's a little more skilled. He's got a little more cardio. It's just basically just a good old fashioned street fight with, two guys that are, a little better trained, and I guess you could say, more skilled. And I guess sometimes you could probably get some guys in there that ain't all that great, but whenever it comes to game bread, you best believe that it's only the best of the best. It's only top notch guys going in there to fight. Whether they have a big following or not, you're gonna have a sure enough fighter whenever you come to the game bread fights.
The card isn't fully announced quite yet, but Dean's been listing off some names here during the past couple days. I mean, already, man. I mean, there's some of UFC guys, former UFC vets. I don't think you can count it at this point. The cards keep on getting better and better. The names keep on getting better and better. Is the sky the limit for this promotion? Do you think this can get extremely big?
Yeah, man, it's just like the BKFC, man. People are seeing that this shit's exciting, and it's exciting because 90% of the times you're gonna see some kind of blood, and people love blood, and that's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah, everybody's kind of attracted to the gory aspect of it, and these type of fights. A lot of the times they don't last as long because you got some guys who can't. They just can't take the bare knuckles and the cuts as well as others, and a lot of that's gonna attribute to making the fights more exciting. And it's weird to say this, but the crack of the knuckles is not the same as the crack of the gloves, and that sound is just it's an interesting sound, if that makes any sense. It's something that people's like, oh shit, and that's just kind of how it goes. I think that over time, guys that are in the UFC or the PFL or whatever, they see how big Game Bread's becoming, and they see that hey, these guys can compete with the money as well. They're gonna start dropping off, from the UFC, Bellator, PFL stuff like that to come try it out.
You've been in some absolute wars over your career. You've had some great fights. Does Jason Knight have a top three favorite fights?
Um, for one, for sure, number one is the Arm Low Bob BKFC 5. Number two would probably be me and Kurt Hollaball in the Ultimate Fighter semifinals. I kind of got my ass kicked in that fight, but I gave him all the hell I could give him. And a little backstory behind that fight: we were teammates, and we made an agreement before the fight that you don't shoot for a takedown unless you get hurt. Well, I got hurt probably 30 seconds into the fight, but I'm not the punk. You know what I'm saying? You're not baiting me into a takedown. You're not gonna let me, like, I'm not letting myself just say, oh yeah, okay, well, he hurt me. I'm you know what I'm saying, if you hurt me, oh well, we gotta bang it out. And I was trying to get my get back, but it never happened. Also, my number three fight, I guess you could say, I fought a guy named Musa Kamanayev for Titan FC, and that was the fight that got me into the UFC. Man, this it was a Russian guy. He was tough, tough, and I'm pretty positive he was on steroids. He beat me like a drum for like a round and a half, and then finally I catch him with I had a armbar type thing from from rubber guard, and he slipped out of that, and then I sunk in a triangle choke. And when I sunk in that triangle choke, I was on my last little bit of energy because I trained for like 2 weeks for that fight, and my muscles were dead, my body was dead, I was gassed completely. But once I locked in that triangle, I just squeezed with everything I had, got my hand raised, and then it wasn't but a month or two, and I got the call to go to the UFC.
Going into the Ultimate Fighter, obviously when we watched it, Team Chandler absolutely dominated. Experience really proved. Did you have a feeling that was going to be the case in the start of the season?
Yeah, man. I knew several of the guys that were there, and I just knew, they were not going to be able to stand a chance with us because a lot of these guys, they're real fighters. They're gritty like me, and these other guys that had 3 and 4 fights and 6 fights and stuff like that, I knew they didn't. For one, they didn't have the experience that we had, and for two, they didn't have the grit that we had. And on top of that, Conor McGregor was, in and out, not really as committed as Michael Chandler was. Michael Chandler and his team, man, they were the best. Like, you could tell they put some love into us. And, they were there doing it out of their heart. They were there with us as a team. They weren't just doing it as a job.
One guy that has really been around you your whole career is another Gamebred fighter, Mr. Alan Belcher, a guy who helped you get your first pro fight. He called you when you were pulling up to Raising Cane's Chicken to tell you that you're going to be fighting in the UFC. You've become cool with them. You've stayed boys your whole time. What does that guy mean to you?
Oh, man, Alan Belcher, he is a staple in my life for sure. Um, I've always looked up to Alan and continue to look up to him to this day. Uh, and speaking of that, he was at the gym last night holding some pads for me. I got to be there tonight. He's going to be teaching a striking class. So, it's just endless with Alan. Him and Mike Sanford, if it weren't for them guys, man, I don't even think I'd still be fighting anymore. They've kept me in it, and anytime that I take time off from the gym, and I'm just being lazy or whatever, just don't want to make the drive, I get a phone call. Hey, where you at? Where you been? When you coming back? And I feel like that's one of the things that's motivated me to get this far.
All right, so you're on the way back to work right now, but just a couple of quick questions before we let you go here. Overall, you talked about it a little bit, but what do you think of Josh Weems as an opponent?
Man, I think he's going to be a tough fight for me. I think he's going to be tough for anybody that gets in front of him. But, honestly, I don't think that he's going to be able to handle the Jason Knight that steps in front of him. It's going to be a tough one, but I guarantee you I'm getting my hand raised.
Both of you guys, you fight kind of similarly here. You both push the pace. You both fight forward. No one fights. No one goes backwards here. Could this be all the makings of a 3-round absolute war of a dogfight if it doesn't end sooner?
I will make sure that I'm prepared for whatever. If we got to go 5 rounds, I'm down for that. I'm ready for whatever. But I definitely don't plan to see it go that far. But I definitely think it's a very big possibility for fight of the night, or some kind of finish of the night, something like that.
All right, Jason, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome when you take on Josh Weems November 15th in Biloxi, Mississippi?
I walk away from his unconscious body.
Well, Jason, man, I can't wait to watch you fight once again. Every time you fight, I get goosebumps. I get excited, and I think a lot of people get excited. So I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for joining me on your lunch break, my friend.
Yes, sir. No problem. You have a good day. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, that's Jason the Kid Knight. I'm Carl Prusa. Stick around, fight fans.